Hi, I'm Kimberly. You won't believe the challenges I've faced. Living with my husband's family has been far from the dream life I imagined when Jeffrey and I got married. He promised it would be temporary just until we saved some money. That was 3 years ago, and I'm still stuck living under their roof. I'm an interior designer, and I'm really good at what I do. My client list keeps growing, and my work has even been featured in local magazines. You'd think my husband would be proud of me, right? Well, he's not. Instead, he complains that I spend too much time at work. Almost every night during dinner, Jeffrey interrogates me. "Who are all these clients you're always meeting?" he asks suspiciously. I try to explain, "Jeffrey, I'm working on that new restaurant downtown. It's a big project," but his mother, Ashley, always has something to add. As she passes the food, she says, "A proper wife should be home more." In our family, we believe in traditional values. If I hear her talk about traditional values one more time, I might scream. Jeffrey's sisters, Laura and Sharon, don't make it any easier. They always find ways to criticize me. "Maybe if you dressed more modestly, Jeffrey wouldn't worry so much," Laura said one evening, glaring at my sleeveless blouse. Frustrated, I shot back, "I'm in my own homes." But Ashley was quick to correct me. "Technically, this is our home," she said with a tight smile. Every time I suggest we find a place of our own, Jeffrey dismisses the idea. "Not this again, Kimberly," he says. "You know Dad's health isn't great. He needs us here." The funny thing is, I saw Timothy, my father-in-law, playing golf last week. He looked perfectly healthy to me. The situation started feeling unbearable. Then I met Cynthia, a coworker, who quickly became my first real friend since moving here. One day over lunch, she gave me some tough love. "Kimberly, you need to set some boundaries," she said firmly. "It's not normal for your husband to check your phone every night." I tried to brush it off, saying, "He doesn't check it. He just glances at it sometimes." Cynthia didn't let it slide. "Kimberly, that's still checking. And living with his family? That's asking for trouble." That night, I went home feeling uneasy. Cynthia's words stuck with me. When I walked in, Jeffrey was waiting for me, and I knew we needed to have a serious talk. My life felt like it was being controlled by everyone around me. Something had to change, and fast. When I got home, Jeffrey was waiting for me, arms crossed, his face tight with anger. "Who's Cynthia?" he asked sharply. "Why are you having lunch with her so often?" I sighed, trying to stay calm. "She's my coworker, Jeffrey. We're working on the Morrison project together. You never mentioned her before. Are you hiding something from me?" His tone was heavy with suspicion. I felt my frustration bubble over. Taking a deep breath, I said, "The only thing I'm hiding is how unhappy I've become. Jeffrey, we need our own space. I love you, but living here isn't healthy for us." His voice rose, defensive and accusing. "What's not healthy is my wife forgetting her family values." Right on cue, Ashley, his mother, walked into the room, her expression full of disapproval. "Jeffrey is right, dear. You've changed. All this attention at work has gone to your head. Pride comes before a fall, you know." I looked at her, my voice steady but firm.
"I'm not proud, Ashley."
"I'm successful. There's a difference." That night, I went to bed feeling trapped, like the walls of the house were closing in around me. This didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a cage. The next day, after a long and exhausting shift, I came home to find the family gathered for dinner. "You're late again," Jeffrey muttered, not even looking up from his plate. "I had to finish the Morrison project," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. "Work, work, work," Ashley sighed dramatically. "Maybe you should focus on your home instead." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my frustration in check. "Jeffrey, I've been thinking. That new development across town has some beautiful houses. We should take a look." "Not this again, Kimberly," he said, cutting me off. "Our life is here, with family." "Your family, Jeffrey, not mine," I shot back, my voice trembling with emotion. Timothy, my father-in-law, gave his usual exaggerated cough. "Son, your mother needs help with her medications and my heart. Well, you know they need us here." Jeffrey turned to me, his tone firm. "They need us, Kimberly. They need you. I said, my voice breaking. I need my husband. I need privacy. Privacy? He scoffed. What are you hiding, Kimberly? That was it. I couldn't take any more. I stormed out into the garden, the cold night air biting against my skin. Tears streamed down my face as I looked up at the stars twinkling above, mocking me with their freedom. How had my life come to this? Hey, everything okay? Brian's voice startled me. He was Jeffrey's cousin and the only one in his family who seemed to understand. Just family stuff, I said, quickly wiping away my tears. The whole moving out discussion again. Brian nodded knowingly. This family can be a lot. I get it. I let out a bitter laugh. Is it too much to ask for a little space of our own? He smiled gently. You know what's funny? Even when you're upset, you still look so put together. Must be that beautiful hair of yours, like a shampoo commercial. I managed a weak laugh, but the moment was short-lived. Reality loomed over me, as heavy as ever. I heard footsteps behind us. Jeffrey had come into the garden, probably to apologize. But when he saw Brian complimenting my hair, his face darkened. Without saying a word, he turned and walked away. Later, in our bedroom, the silence between us was unbearable. Finally, Jeffrey spoke, his voice sharp and cold. Cover your hair. I blinked, confused.
What?
You heard me, he said. If you're going to live in this house, cover your hair. I stared at him, my jaw dropping. This is ridiculous. Jeffrey, I've told you before, we need to move out. If we had our own place, you wouldn't be obsessing over who looks at my hair. His face hardened. My father needs us here. I scoffed, unable to hold back. Your father plays golf every weekend, Jeffrey. He's fine. His eyes narrowed, his voice firm and unyielding. Cover your hair. No, I won't, I said, crossing my arms. I was shaking with anger now. This is exactly why we need to move out. Your jealousy is out of control. He didn't reply. Instead, he turned his back to me, refusing to engage any further. Exhausted, I sighed and reached for a sleeping pill. Lying down, I turned my back to him, the only way I could find any peace in this house. The medication began pulling me into sleep as I heard him mutter, "Fine, have it your way." Through the haze of drowsiness, I vaguely heard him pacing. Then, there was the sound of a drawer opening, followed by a chilling sensation on my scalp. I tried to wake up, to move, to protest, but the medication kept dragging me under. When I finally woke up, something felt wrong. My hand instinctively reached for my hair. The long, flowing locks I had spent years growing were gone. In their place were jagged, uneven strands barely reaching my ears. Panic surged through me as I bolted to the mirror and let out a scream. Ashley appeared at the door, coffee cup in hand. "What's all this noise about?" she asked, sounding irritated. I turned to her, trembling with fury. "Look at what he did to my hair." She tilted her head, taking a slow sip of her coffee.
Oh dear.
"Trying out a new style, are we? It's different." "Different," I yelled. "Jeffrey cut my hair while I was sleeping." Her lips curved into a smug smile. "Well, it'll grow back. Maybe next time you'll listen." Fuming, I stormed downstairs, where I found Jeffrey calmly eating breakfast, as if nothing had happened. My anger boiled over as I stood in front of him, my voice shaking. "How could you do this to me?" I demanded. He didn't even look up, taking another bite of his toast. "It had to be done," he said flatly. In that moment, I realized just how far things had spiraled out of control. Something had to change, and it had to change now. I demanded an explanation. Jeffrey didn't even flinch. "I did what I had to do. You needed to learn respect." "Respect," I yelled, my voice trembling with rage. "You violated me while I was asleep." Laura walked into the room, rolling her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just hair. It'll grow back if you behave." I couldn't take it anymore. I called in sick to work, needing space to process everything. Later that afternoon, Cynthia showed up at the house. As soon as she saw me, her eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God, Kimberly.
Pack your things.
You're staying with me tonight." At Cynthia's apartment, I finally broke down. She made tea and sat across from me, her face serious. "It's worse than you think," she began. "Jeffrey called the Morrison Project team last week. He tried to cancel your contract. Said you were mentally unstable." "What?" I gasped, my heart sinking. "And that's not all," she continued. "Remember the Peterson account? Ashley has been spreading rumors at the country club, saying you're having an affair with a client." My hands shook as I opened my calendar. Several canceled appointments stared back at me. "It was him," I whispered, horrified. Cynthia grabbed my hands firmly. "Kimberly, this is abuse. You need to start documenting everything." That night, I made a decision. I ordered hidden cameras online, determined to get proof. While the family was at church the next day, I installed the cameras in the bedroom, kitchen, and living room. What the footage revealed made my blood run cold. The cameras caught Ashley rummaging through my drawers, Laura scrolling through my phone while I was in the shower, and Sharon photographing my personal documents. Worst of all, Jeffrey was reporting my every move to his mother. Then came the most chilling moment. In a kitchen conversation, Ashley spoke to Jeffrey in a low voice. "The haircut was a good start, son, but she's still too independent. Maybe we should take her finances next. Remember how well that worked with Shirley's?" My heart dropped. Shirley? That night, I searched through my old emails. One subject line caught my attention. I was Jeffrey's ex. My heart pounded as I opened the message. "Hi, Kimberly. I saw your picture in the design magazine and recognized Jeffrey. I need to warn you. What they did to my hair was just the beginning. They isolated me, sabotaged my job, and spread lies until I had nothing left. I fled to Los Angeles. Please be careful. Shirley." I exchanged messages with Shirley for hours. Her story mirrored mine. Ashley snooping through her things, Jeffrey canceling her clients, and the family tearing her down at every turn. From that moment on, I played along. Outwardly, I pretended to be the obedient wife, but inside, I was planning my escape. This wasn't a life, it was a trap, and I was determined to break free. I quietly prepared for my escape. I packed important documents, backed up all the evidence to the cloud, and finalized my plans. Cynthia had secured me a position at a well-known firm in Miami, a fresh start I desperately needed. Meanwhile, Shirley shared the family's darkest secret, their financial fraud. "The fraud runs deep," Shirley had said. "I worked in their accounting department. Timothy funneled stolen money into offshore accounts. Remember Mrs. Peterson's charity donation? It never reached the foundation. Her revelations were the missing piece I needed." Armed with this information, I anonymously tipped off their biggest client. Within days, auditors arrived unannounced, tearing through the family's business records like a storm. The morning everything fell apart, Jeffrey stormed into the bedroom, his face red with rage. "Did you do this? Did you trigger the audits?" I calmly looked up from my suitcase, feeling peace for the first time in months. "Me? I'm just your unstable wife, remember? The one you mutilated in her sleep." Ashley barged in next, pale as a ghost. "They're going through everything," she shrieked. "Good," I replied with a smile, pulling out the divorce papers. "And soon, so will the court." Jeffrey's face twisted with fury. "You ungrateful." "Save it," I interrupted, my voice steady but firm. "I have everything on camera. The harassment, the abuse, those secret family meetings where you all plotted to break me." "Oh, and by the way, Shirley says hi." Their faces turned white. Timothy, usually so full of bluster, stammered, "You can't prove anything." I tilted my head, pretending to feel sorry for him. "The cameras caught you discussing those offshore accounts in the kitchen last week." Oops. The scandal exploded like a bomb. Jeffrey and Timothy were quickly indicted on fraud charges. The Bennett family's empire crumbled almost overnight. I moved to Miami to start fresh, taking half of everything Jeffrey owned before the courts froze his assets. My lawyer ensured the divorce settlement was fair, finally giving me the justice I deserved. A few weeks later, Cynthia sent me a news article. The headline read, "Bennett family business empire crumbles. Father and son face federal charges." As I read the article, I couldn't help but smile. I had endured years of control, manipulation, and betrayal. But now I was free. Free to live my life, free to rebuild, and free from the toxic family that had tried to break me. Miami was everything I had hoped for: a new job, new friends, and a fresh beginning. The scars from my past would take time to heal, but I finally felt hope. I had taken back my power, and no one would ever take it from me again. I texted Shirley back. Karma's a better designer than me. She flew in to celebrate, her laughter as contagious as ever. So, are they selling the house yet? She asked, grinning as she sipped her wine. Yep, I replied, savoring every word. Ashley and the sisters had to move into a tiny apartment. Shirley laughed. What about Laura and Sharon? I couldn't hide my smirk. Laura's country club membership was revoked, and Sharon's fiancé called off the wedding. Apparently, his family doesn't approve of criminals. The 3 years that followed felt like a whirlwind. My design firm in Miami thrived, specializing in creating women's shelters and safe spaces. These were places meant to heal and empower women, a cause close to my heart. My hair grew back, longer and healthier than ever, a symbol of my resilience and strength. Then, the call I'd been waiting for finally came. Jeffrey was sentenced to 6 years in prison for fraud, and Timothy got 7. Their business was gone, their reputation shattered, and their once glamorous social status obliterated. During one of Cynthia's monthly visits, she asked, "How does it feel?" I ran my fingers through my long, flowing hair and smiled. Like justice? Ashley tried reaching out once, probably looking for help or money. I didn't even entertain the idea. I blocked her number immediately. The last I heard, she and her daughters were working retail jobs, their designer clothes and luxury cars long gone. Recently, one of my shelter projects was featured in Architectural Digest. During the interview, the journalist asked, "What inspires your designs?" I smiled thoughtfully. Sometimes, the most beautiful designs come from rebuilding after destruction. This entire journey made me reflect. What would you do if your spouse's family tried to take away your career, your freedom, and your identity? If they actively worked to destroy your life? Would you quietly escape, or would you fight back and ensure they face the consequences of their actions? Abuse isn't always physical. It can be the slow erosion of your independence, confidence, and sense of self. If Kimberly's story resonates with you, share your experience. Your voice might help someone else find the strength to take back their power. And always remember, abuse thrives in silence, but freedom comes from speaking out and breaking free. You have the power to rebuild, just like I did.